Hey everybody, we are just getting situated here. I am here and our other guest, or our other speaker, Elena. Here she is. Oh yeah, Elena, we had the music going for you. Here, I'm going to start it again. No offense to you, don't waste your time. Here's why. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. GM. We had to represent. You know, Pharrell. Pharrell is the man behind the Doodles brand, or will be. It's unclear as of now, sort of what his role is. But I remember when I got mine, I was like, "Let's play the Pharrell song." And now, of course, you've got your beautiful PFPs. So you're in the Pharrell club.
I'm in the Pharrell club. I'm a dude now. I wanted to get a dude. I come, and you're not a dude anymore.
I know. I can change it.
No. I have a song for you too. Snoop Dogg for you, and you got Pharrell for me.
That is incredible. This is why we're friends. You were so thoughtful to have that ready, and you know the Pharrell song is sort of like a rite of passage over here. So I really appreciate that. But yeah, I mean we in our show we'll have like a little bit of time to talk about our new PFPs and sort of like talk about why we got them, what we're looking forward to, all of that. But I think for right now, people are trickling in, so we can just kick off. Hi, everybody. My name is Adam, and I'm the head of community here at Rarible. I look after our social and community efforts, including Twitter, Instagram, Discord, and of course, Twitter Spaces. This space is a recurring space where we recap the news and discuss the latest industry developments. The idea is that Elena and I both pull from our respective newsletters. Rebels is called Right Click Recap, and Elena has one called NF Times to bring you the latest news in the Web3 world. Elena, over to you to introduce yourself.
GM, I'm Elena. I published an NF Times newsletter, do strategy, community, I don't know, entrepreneurship, photography. I write, I do everything. And we do Twitter Spaces every week, normally Mondays, but Tuesday today with Adam, where we talk about the news of the week. And we have a lot of news today. Of course, the biggest story is still FTX, so much happening there. We're going to be talking about that, mentioning royalties a bit. We'll talk about Solana, Google, Nike, and everything else that happened this week.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good place to start just with our sort of like macro sentiment about just the landscape that is constantly ever changing around us. It seems like ETH and BTC prices are rebounding a bit. They're still sort of trading sideways, but rebounding a bit as the fallout of FTX gets distributed throughout the larger market. It seems like everything is settling down. It seems like all of the sort of fear and FUD from that original incident has sort of faded. Now, obviously, there's still a lot of skepticism in the space, and it would be silly not to, still have some reservations just about exchanges in general, especially offshore ones. But I think, the prices are sort of reflective of a little bit of trust, I think, personally, coming back into the market. Although one thing that I saw yesterday is that there's some whale out there who just accumulated like $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. um, I like to just like keep an eye on, where people are spending their money. Now we don't know if this is a person, this could be an organization, an entity, this could be a country. We don't know who this is, sort of like the who in quotation marks, but really fascinating stuff that someone was just like, yeah, I'm going to get $2 billion worth of Bitcoin. Why not? That, of course, I think helps the prices a little bit and sort of signals to the other market that, or the other, players in the market that, um, there is demand for this, which is really exciting. Um, One thing, we may want to get a little bit more into FTX later, but one of the things that I'm hoping for related to this macro sentiment is just that the failure of FTX causes regulators to hurry up with crypto legislation, particularly here in the US. I know that a lot of people are really looking for it. And the reason is because that would allow people to invest more safely if the banks, if the hedge funds, if the sovereign wealth, if the pensions, if all of these players had regulations alongside which they have to, abide by. And same thing goes for the exchanges. I think it could be, a really good thing for the space. I just pinned a tweet. Brian Armstrong was responding to Elizabeth Warren, and I think aptly called this out. He said the problem is that the SEC has failed to create regulatory clarity here in the U.S. So many American investors go offshore, and once the U.S. figures this out, I mean, hopefully, sooner rather than later, get some regulatory clarity, get the institutional investors, get more transparency in the space, we can just all sort of move forward. So I think that this is sort of like always my favorite topic is to talk about reasons why I think crypto's going to do well in the long term. And I think here, if we're able to get this legislation, I think it would move things forward really well. So yeah, I don't know, Elena, do you have anything to add about prices or sort of like the macro environment before we move on?
Nope, my macro view has been just FTX, so honestly, last week. That's all I've been kind of seeing and thinking about.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it was huge. Like this was one of the most celebrated exchanges, I think, other than Coinbase, ever. Like everyone knew FTX, everyone trusted FTX. Um, I, luckily, I didn't have anything on that exchange, but I knew like everyone, loved it. So it's definitely rattling people's cages. I think the next topic that I wanted to talk about today, which is BlockFi. There's some breaking news that BlockFi has filed for bankruptcy, um, and that is because they had significant exposure to FTX. I don't personally know the details of that exposure. It could be they lent FTX a bunch of money. It could be they held FTT token. It could be a lot of different things. But I do know that I have a few friends who had the BlockFi credit card that was powered by Visa, and it stopped working last week. And then Visa, of course, made an announcement that it was splitting ways with them. But several companies, including Binance US and Curve, are bidding on those 87,000 credit card customers right now. So I think, even when there's fallout, it can be a lucrative opportunity for someone to come in and sort of like save them, and also, create value in the space. And I think this is, there's BlockFi going bankrupt again. Not again, but I meant to say again, I'm belaboring the point to say that when we have transparency and regulation, one company's impact won't spread through the whole ecosystem. Whereas I think right now with FTX, there was just so much money gone that it really spread throughout the entire industry versus, if banks or exchanges are constantly audited, if they are constantly, forced to be transparent, to have those funds backed up, to prove that they have them backed up, I think we'll have like just a lot of a safer space. So yeah, those are my thoughts on BlockFi. Elena, anything to add?
Yeah, I didn't use BlockFi before, so I wasn't like super within that, but yeah, it's one of the first that comes out that has, potential bankruptcy due to contagion and being exposed to FTX and its token FTT. And hopefully it won't be a lot of other companies who had exposure, but FTT was one of the most trusted tokens out there. The FTX was the face of regulatory approval, face of crypto in DC. So let's hope BlockFi is one of the few that had significant exposure.
Yeah, that's a great point. Um, One thing about exchanges, and this is something that we probably mention all the time, but I just have to slip it in here before we forget, is that it's really important for every individual to have self custody of their assets, whether that's NFTs, whether that's crypto, whether that's anything else. And so, if you can have a cold storage, is sort of like, in my opinion, the best way, because you can just sort of like set it and forget it. Um, have your ledger. There's other options out there as well. But yeah, it's really important because when these exchanges have your sort of crypto on them, and we know that they're not regulated in the way that banks are, they're potentially using your funds, your money, to make themselves more money, and they're risking it and gambling it, and then it just all disappears. So really important for you to have your keys to your crypto, and not to keep it on exchanges.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I've always been a ETH maxi and decentralization because that's been the most exciting feature of blockchain has it been for me. The ability to have your and own your own assets, actually own your own assets, and in these centralized exchanges, that be Coinbase, FTX in the US, they they basically, like, you don't own your own money. They own your money. When you transfer your money out of your bank account to one of these exchanges, you don't have actual ownership, even though you should. It feels like it should, but unless you have a self-custody wallet like MetaMask, or more importantly, like, you should be putting your valuable NFTs and your big crypto assets into a ledger, into a cold storage, because you cannot necessarily trust these exchanges. After what happened to FTX, I think a lot of people will pay attention to that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's super important to have that cold storage. And it's like, I hate to say it like every time we get on the space, but I just want to like use this as an opportunity to educate people, because some people think that, oh, these exchanges are like banks. Like if they lose my money, it's insured by the government. Like, no, it's not. It's not insured by anyone. People, if FTX is any example, they were taking customers' money, fueling their own sort of like failing investment strategy. They were sort of like, it's unclear all of the different ways in which they were being unethical with other people's money. But there was a lot of ways in which they were just losing money left and right that didn't belong to them. It belonged to someone else, and there's no one really to bail them out in this situation unless they're able to raise, which I don't know why anyone would want to give them money now. So definitely important. But not to belabor that point too much, because I think everyone in the space has either heard us talk about it before, or they've heard us today loud and clear. Elena, do you want to talk to us a little bit about your new PFP and sort of like what went into picking it? And the reason I'm asking is because I think part of this show and part of our conversations can help people think about NFTs differently. So some of them, they're art investments, some of them are PFPs because we believe in the project, or there's rumors about a project, or the project has a roadmap that we think will be successful. Other times, it's there's a proven project, that has a consistent floor price. Like, I'd love to hear a little bit more about like your thought process for aping into your doodle, which is very cute, by the way.
Thank you. Well, you helped me pick it, so um, of course. We've been talking about doodles on this show for a while. It's of course a very difficult market, a difficult week in crypto and in NFTs as well. I have been sort of noticing that the crypto and NFT market are becoming their own um, s- sub subsections. S- price of price of different cryptocurrencies don't necessarily affect floor prices that much anymore, and crypto has its own culture, and NFT has its own culture. And we've been talking about this on this show, and I've been in between a Doodle and a Clonex for a while as a more trustworthy NFT collection, just because due to sort of a brand backing it. For Clonex, as you know, Nike owns it, and for Doodles, the I guess the trustworthiness came from the ex Billboard CEO becoming the CEO of Doodles, and Pharrell Williams being the chief brand officer. And what we know about Doodles is that they're building for onboarding a next million people. They want to have so many people within the Doodles ecosystem. So I'm sort of thinking that we're going to be able to make a new Doodle out of our own Doodles. And when I saw that there was a Art Basel activation in Miami, I just thought it's time. Floor price was kind of lower than it has been, and I just aped in, but you actually aped in, so
Yeah, I actually did ape in. I have been no, that's great. That's great. I think, yeah, there's definitely like there's like a speculative nature to all of this, that like, none of this, for anyone listening, none of this is financial advice. This is just sharing with how we make these decisions and how we evaluate, investing in certain things. Yeah, absolutely. Like a strong team for me personally, that is one of the really big like factors in any investment. So like, Goblin Town, sure, there was like a lot of um, confusion, and there was a lot of hype, and there was a lot of mystery. But the reason I never bought into Goblin Town even early on was because we didn't know who the team was. And then, it got revealed. And then, some of the hype actually went away, which I find odd. But like a strong doxed team is super important for me when I'm evaluating projects. And mentioned Julian and the team, Evan and Burnt Toast, and different other people, and they've all proven themselves in this space. They regularly are out speaking, and I remember when I got my doodle, the watching the NFT NYC keynote was super important. Just hearing what they were doing with music and doodles too, and the duplicator and all these other things made me feel like, okay, this team can build something of value that, one, I want to be a part of, but two, that I believe, in my own mind will, raise the floor price and make this investment worth it. So I really respect that. I think for me, with the mutant that I've got, there were, to be honest with you, a lot of different factors that went into this decision. I did have like some money laying around that I was just looking to do something with, because the sad reality of this year globally is that no matter where you put your money, you lost it. If it was in your savings account, due to inflation, it lost value. If it was in the stock market, it lost value. If it was somewhere else, it lost value. So there's really no way of protecting yourself and insulating yourself. So I was like, you know what? My money sitting in my savings account is, of course I have my like my rainy day fund, quote unquote, but it's really not worth it just to like keep a stash in there. I might as well go out and use it and try to make safe bets, and whatever happens happens. So there were three really like big clear options for me. The first one was to buy more Bitcoin, which would have been the safest option and sort of the longest runway for this investment. The second option was a clone, which I still do actually really want to like round out my holy trinity of like doodle clone mutant. That would be, a dream come true, but probably won't happen anytime soon because I'm broke now that I bought this monkey JPEG. And then finally the mutant. And I had seen the floor for mutants had been low for a little while, low comparatively. And then I didn't even know about like M1 versus M2 mutants, but there's different traits and there's different rarities. And I just found one that I liked that was really clean, that didn't have too many frills, and it was within a price point that I had sort of already budgeted for. So I pulled the trigger. Now, do I think Bitcoin would have been a safer move, if I had like a 5 year or 10 year investment horizon? Absolutely would have been an easier move, a better move. But I can't show off a Bitcoin to all my internet friends. So I was like, you know what? Let's just put the money here. We're gonna have fun. It's liquid in the sense that there are bids right now almost for what I paid for it. So I'm like, okay, if I ever need to get out, I can get out for a.
I think you're cutting off a bit.
Sorry, I think I got rugged.
Why don't you continue from Rebel's account?
Yeah, sorry, I got rugged. Someone called me on my personal phone, and I don't know why, but all right, I'm gonna
Who
leave
calls
and
you
come
so
back in.
much? Yeah, the Clonex floor right now is at 7.4, which is lower than what I saw earlier this week when I was buying the dude. It was around 8, and it's kind of surprising because we actually had some news from Nike that we're going to talk about in a bit. They're launching a new platform for digital sneakers, events, all that good stuff.
All right, I think I'm back.
You back?
Thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, I didn't have too much else to say other than I love my monkey picture. It makes me very happy, and there's always going to be trade-offs. There's always going to be opportunity cost. If you choose one thing, you can't have another thing. But that's just where you have to be smart, and you also have to go with your gut. So yeah, I think that is that segment. Let's move on to the news.
Can I talk about FTX now?
Go for it.
Okay, so much drama, so much drama. It's like a soap opera. I am actually shocked. And okay, before we start, a great thing that happened for Elon was actually this FTX drama, just because this situation was like live recorded and investigated at Twitter Spaces of someone that I don't remember the name of, but I can pin one of the spaces, and they actually have been like figuring some stuff out and then bringing people in to speak and all that, and breaking the news on Twitter. There were like such huge spaces, I think like 500K or something. But what happened is FTX filed for bankruptcy after Binance uncovered an 8 billion cash shortage. So what started as a news report on Alameda Research became the biggest mind-boggling story in crypto, and that is a high bar. And in the face of regulation of trustworthiness, the CEO of SBF turns out was scamming people left and right. Like actually, the the FTX never held enough currencies, never backed the currencies one to one, but instead was using them as they pleased. So they didn't even save the funds that people put into, which they're supposed to back it with like 101 tokens. They didn't do that. Instead, they've been just like cashing out like what? They've been living in a $40 million penthouse, and turns out FTX was run by 10 people who were in polyamorous relationship with one another. Question mark, question mark. which is very weird. And then there's a whole story about how um, the CEO of Alameda Research, she is the daughter of an old SEC, someone who was working there. I'll find that graphic, but like there's a whole conspiracy theory about how this relates to like SEC and uh, how Sam Bankman-Fried found this money in the first place, and perhaps was there like something else happening there? There was a New York Times article that people were calling like a puff piece because it was extremely like easy on him because he is a huge left donor, which I'm more left leaning, but that's not journalism. Um, yeah, and then soon reports announced a 600 million FTX hack in quotes, because which many suspect that it was an inside job after rumors of a backdoor SBF put into FTX's smart contract. So, what are you thinking about all this? Like, what is happening?
It's hard to even know where to start because it's so messy and sort of like it's hard to know what is true and what's maybe a little bit fabricated or what's being exaggerated for clout. But just a financial company run by a bunch of people in the Bahamas out of a $40 million penthouse who are all in a polyamorous relationship. Like you're right, it's almost like a scripted TV show, like a drama. Like like I don't even know where to begin with how wrong all of that is. Um, but also, too, there have been clips of Sam, and I believe Caroline is her name. And they've just been sort of like talking generally about their investing strategy. And once you actually watch the clips, because when it comes to investing, like, sure, you're not going to make every single specific detail known about your strategy just in case people might copy you or people might try to block you. Some generalism is fine. But some of these clips that are surfacing where they are just so aloof about what's happening within their own company, it is so wild to me. So that I think is crazy. Also, something that you said, I reminded me that I wanted to say it earlier. That when it comes to these decentralized or centralized exchanges, um, there's always going to be that element of like human error. And what I mean by human error is someone can always build a backdoor, someone can always, um, you know, if they're unethical, people in power can make these decisions that end up toppling the whole thing. Versus if it's decentralized, it's all run on code, and the code has to be agreed upon. The code has to sort of like pass a review test by everyone. And so the code is just executed at that point. There's really, I mean, I'm sure there are ways to like hide things in code, but for the most part, I think the picture I'm painting here is when it comes to decentralization, it doesn't give bad actors like this an opportunity to infiltrate the system and actually sort of like rug the whole thing, because it's just code that's being executed over and over and over again. It's not individuals with power making secret decisions, funneling money through backdoors and all this other stuff. So I think, yeah, it is really important as we embrace decentralization to just let the code speak and let the code execute so that there's no opportunity for individuals to do anything wild, because this is wild. Okay, I see that you pinned the tweet. I'm opening it now. Gary Gensler, Glenn Ellison, Caroline. Yeah, Caroline is who I was talking about, and then Sam Bankman-Fried.
Yeah, so Elon shares this link, and there's like some different TikToks and stuff explaining this relationship. I don't know. I'm normally not a conspiracy theory person, but this is like actually pretty weird, and I don't know. Something feels sus that this became like got regulatory approval, was one of the biggest exchanges. Like, think like it was on Super Bowl. They had a ad with Curb Your Enthusiasm. Larry, what was his name? Larry something. Like FTX was huge, I think what is it? Tom Brady has some shares in FTX. So I'm just like appalled.
Yeah, I think there was a headline that I read, something like Tom Brady had like 600 million in FTX. I'm gonna see if I can find it. Give me 2 seconds. Brady's net worth, 600 million into FTX venture. Oh, it said Tom and Giselle attached a large sum of their net worth of 600 million into FTX. So it wasn't that the entire amount was 600, but it was a large chunk of that. So imagine, you've been modeling your entire life, you've been playing football your entire life, you have tens of hundreds of millions, and then you get a call one day, or you see on Twitter, oh, it's all gone. There's no way to get it back. That is wild to me.
It's crazy. And I'm trying to, I found the Twitter Spaces that was uncovering this whole thing. And actually, like, even Elon jumped into the space and talked with the people.
Yeah, I mean, that's wild. There are also, I think it was either Elon or someone else who had shared some screenshots about Sam reaching out and trying to fund his acquisition of Twitter several months ago. And Elon was like, I don't think so. Something about this like smells fishy. It was maybe just his intuition. Maybe it was the dollar amount that Sam was willing to, give him up front. I don't know what it was. But I also thought that was interesting. Like, what if Sam had helped him fund his acquisition of Twitter and then all the money was gone and he was on the hook? I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy, and I want to play
my math degree.
Last thing that I'll say is
something from the Alameda Research CEO.
Look.
Yeah, absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of like elementary school math. Being comfortable with risk is very important. We tend not to have things like stop losses. I think those aren't necessarily a great risk management tool. Trying to think of a good example of a trade where I've lost a ton of money.
Like, how is she a CEO? I don't know. That's crazy. I don't know. This is like the crazy story that unfolded in crypto. Everybody says it. Unfortunately, it's really hurt the trust of crypto. The very little trust that people have left in crypto. But on the bright side, removal of these bad actors whenever it is, earlier the better. So we're glad that FTX is known for what it was doing now, but it's a difficult time for people who especially had exposure. But feel free to add whatever you want, and then maybe we can talk about Nike.
Yeah, I was just going to say that clip that you just played. I remember watching that. And like I was saying earlier, she's being very vague, very general, isn't talking about investing or isn't talking about, strategy like someone who really knows what's going on. I mean, I have to assume that this is someone who, sure, they have a math degree. Math can get like very theoretical at times. I don't think that makes you a good like investor. And so it's wild to me that, these interviews have been out for a while. Like these recordings are just resurfacing. They've been out for a while. People watched those whenever they came out and they were like, huh, yeah, okay, this person must know what they're doing. Whereas now we're like, okay, I get it. They did not know what they were doing. So anyway, that's all I have to share on FTX. But yeah, it's wild. A polyamorous company in the Bahamas run out of a penthouse where no one knew what they were doing. Yeah, it's pretty wild.
That is literally like the opposite of what I thought of SBF when I watched his like charity video or whatnot, and just I thought it was a smart guy who's trying to change the world and make it better, and then turns out it was like, I don't know. I don't even wanna. It's like not family friendly. It's crazy.
Yeah, but the last thing I'll say here, because I'm sure people in the audience are like, okay, move on, like we've heard enough. Um, I just one thing that like also boggles my mind is that he is not in the U.S. like in handcuffs already. Like I've seen like several tweets that are like supposedly tracking like his private jet. People are saying he's going to UAE. People are saying he's still in Bahamas. People are saying he was going to Argentina. Um, I just can't believe like with this level of negligence that not that the US needs to arrest him based on breaking US law, but more so just knowing like internationally that there's like essentially a criminal abroad. Why not just have him in custody and then we can figure it all out later? I don't know. That's just me. If I had lost tens of millions, I would be like, yeah, put that guy in handcuffs.
I agree. Let's move on. Actually, before moving on to Nike, I just wanted to mention that after Meta said that they're laying off 11,000 employees. Today, Amazon's plans of laying off 10,000 employees came out. And tech giants who grew incredible paces over the pandemic are coming back to their pre-pandemic employee numbers as well as stock prices. And Scott Galloway called this Patagonia West recession, and it's been definitely something that has been happening over the last 6 months. A lot of laying offs from tech companies about like tech jobs. Anything you want to add up there?
It's getting bleak out here, let me tell you. It is getting bleak if Amazon, which I think other than maybe Apple, Microsoft, and Google, is one of the richest in the world, if they're laying off people, and they own a lot of the supply chain, they own a lot of the infrastructure that, whether it's factories, whether it's delivery trucks, whether it's shipping, whatever it is, like they own that. And so if they're laying off, it's, that it's bad. But this is where I think, based on the inflation numbers that we got earlier this month, based on a little bit of a dovish stance from Jeremy Powell, if we do see some rate reductions in interest rates, we could see, I think, a healthy rebound in the strength of these companies to hire and to sort of like stay where they're at without needing to shed for financial reasons.
Yeah, I mean, tech stocks always go up, right? And you look at the stock prices of many tech companies and they seem low, but when you compare it to pre-pandemic levels, especially for, likes of Amazon, it's actually coming back to pre-pandemic levels. They grew incredibly over the pandemic, and perhaps this is more of a correction, but laying off employees is, of course, impacts lives. I pinned a tweet that talks about different companies and how many people they laid off. But yeah, let's hope for a better future. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that I really like about Kathy Wood and why I'm such like a sort of like blind follower of hers is that innovation and tech is what solves problems. So of course, when the world goes into COVID, when the world goes into supply chain shocks, when the world goes into hyperinflation, all of these problems eventually are solved by technology. They're solved by innovation. And so what actually becomes tech is usually sort of like the first thing to fall, but then it also becomes one of the first things to sort of rise out of the ashes because it's actually the solution for all of the problems that we're all in. And so, once we see, I think Kathy is buying Bitcoin. I think she's buying Tesla. One of her big things is autonomous driving. And so it's unfortunate to see this tech shedding. I think it can be expected. And as these companies work towards building a better future, we're going to see them come back.
Yeah, and actually building on that, I will say that people being laid off from tech companies is how we come up with new projects and new startups. So this might actually lead into a new set of I don't know, new set of companies and ideas being flourishing, because this is usually what the trajectory that this takes.
I love it. I completely agree.
Do you want to talk about Nike?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not sure who has seen it quite yet. I'm hoping everyone, but Nike launches the dot swoosh Web3 platform. Is that how people are saying it? Elena, do you know? Like dot swoosh or swoosh?
I think dot swoosh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I think a lot of people know that Nike acquired Artifact in 2021, and then they released the digital Nike sneakers as ETH NFTs in April. But now they're launching a new Web3 platform called Dot Swoosh that's going to offer Polygon-based NFT products. I have always thought that the Nike acquisition of Artifact has been one of the most strategic moves really since I've like been alive and since I've been an adult and I've been paying attention to business. Whoever there's like my two favorites are like Nike and Artifact, and then also just like the Polygon team. The Polygon BD team, I don't know what is like in their coffee or in their drinks or in their food, but they are signing deals with Nike, they're signing deals with Disney. They are signing and bringing technology to the most influential brands and influential technology and media companies out there. It's really, really impressive. So I love to see this stuff. Polygon, as we know, sidechain to ETH makes things a little bit cheaper as well, with gas, and sort of just like the vibe of the chain is like everything's marked down. And what's great about it, like another reason why this is so genius is because Nike can sell goods that don't even really exist. Like if you're selling digital sneakers, you don't need to pay to ship them. You don't need to pay for materials. You don't need to pay for the factory. You don't need to pay, you need to put them in store and pay retail workers to sell them. You just essentially design them and mint them, and people are buying sneakers that, exist in the metaverse. I'm not going to say they don't exist, but they exist in the metaverse, and you could have hypothetically unlimited numbers of these where people just buy them and buy them and buy them, and you have none of those other costs, and so your overhead actually like becomes very, very close to zero. And what better business model could there be? So I personally am not super bullish on fashion in the metaverse, only because I am more like the PFP vibe. Like if my mutant can walk around in the other side, I don't need to dress him up in Nike sneakers. Maybe if I had a clone, I would get some Nike sneakers for the metaverse. But for me, fashion is not really where I'm going to go. But I do think for a lot of people, it will be what they want to do in dressing up their avatars and skins and all this other stuff. So I think this is a really good move. But Elena, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I do like fashion NFTs and fashion in the metaverse just because it's adds to an existing industry rather than replacing it. So I think it definitely has a place in 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 the Web3. And we've been seeing a lot of high fashion companies entering Web3, that be accepting cryptocurrency payments um, or selling NFTs themselves. But Nike has been one that's definitely leading the space into the digital wearable space. And I think Nike is actually taking a page out of Reddit's playbook here and making the platform very user friendly and without pushing blockchain or crypto language into an everyday user. So what I understand from the dot swoosh is it's basically a hub for Nike lovers and Web3 enthusiasts to come together, check events, they can trade and actually create digital virtual sneakers for that they can submit, and those who will be accepted can be sold on that platform as well, and it'll be on Polygon too.
Yeah, I think the Polygon piece is like one of the biggest pieces. I mean, also Starbucks. I forgot to mention Starbucks when I was just talking about the Polygon BD team and how they're selling in these huge, huge, huge deals to these huge brands on Polygon. Starbucks is another example of their loyalty rewards program that's being launched on Polygon. So I just like love to watch that particular team do what they do. I like through working at Rarible, like I know some of them over there and just really, really smart. I mean, getting in with Disney, getting in with Starbucks, getting in with Nike. It just like the list goes on and on. It's really, really awesome and impressive. So I'm excited to see the adoption grow, you know, even with the FTX stuff. It's unfortunate, but I think these are the types of partnerships and these are the type of projects where we are going to onboard the next, you know, billion people into Web3 because if Nike can make a user experience for anyone in the world to own a digital pair of sneakers in their, you know, Polygon wallet or their ETH wallet or whatever it is, that is going to be massive for the space.
Yeah, also speaking of, did you claim or like check out your mutant ape and the sandbox metaverse? Because I checked out both my World of Woman WoW Gs, and they look pretty dope.
No, I haven't. Do I just need to go to Sandbox and like collect my wallet and like walk around?
Yep, exactly.
Oh my gosh, does my mutant have a body?
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even know that. Okay, so in all fairness, I'm really sorry to bring this up again, but in all fairness, I was staying up until 4 in the morning sending wrapped Ethereum bids last night. I literally was up until 4 a.m. Finally bought the bullet, got the ape, went to sleep, woke up, and have had like a full day of work today. So I haven't even really like I haven't even gone to like the Yuga Labs website yet. I haven't done anything. It's so lame. That's probably going to be my job for tonight. But yeah, I'm writing down to go to the sandbox and just like walk around and check it out. That's a great idea. Thank you.
No, that's great. Yeah, Yuga. Speaking of Yuga, I have two Yuga news. One, there's a new Yuga website, news.yuga.com. It's a updated home for all things Bored Ape, Mutant Ape, CryptoPunks, and Meebits. And they actually acquired Renew, which is the creator of 10KTF. If you guys don't know, 10KTF has been a project that has, you know, Bored Apes used before. They make physical goods using your NFTs, and the Renew co-founder was actually Beeple, and now Beeple will join as an advisor to Yuga Labs.
Dang, that's pretty cool. People, I had to mute people only because some of the images that he had been sharing were just like pretty wild. Um, so yeah, I muted people, but very innovative person in the space, very well known for selling that artwork for like 60 million or something crazy like that. So I think this is a good move.
Oh yeah. So I have some speed round, but did we want to talk about anything else before? Oh, we're almost done. Wait, actually, let's invite people on. I just checked the time. If you have a thought, question, if you want to speak, if you want to chat with us, you can request to speak, and we'll invite you.
Yeah, I'll man the or I'll operate the bringing people up on stage if you want to do speed round, and then after that, if anyone comes up, they can ask their question.
For sure. Let's do it. In speed round this week, we have Drifter Shoots becoming the first artist to sell out an NFT drop on Instagram with 50 edition release of learning to handle change. Doodles announced Doodle Pots, a live experience happening at Art Basel in Miami, which is why I got this dude. Well, it pushed me to get this dude. And Adidas featured a Bored Ape in their new World Cup ads. If you guys haven't seen it, it's on the serial. It's difficult to notice if you don't know, but check it out. And CEO of Chain, Deepak Tablial, is considering auctioning or fractionalizing his considerable NFT collection, which, if I'm not wrong, includes one of the most expensive punks, an alien punk, if I'm not wrong. Do we have anyone coming up to speak?
I was just gonna say I love the alien punks, but I actually prefer the zombie punks. They're the ones that are green with the red eyes, very similar to the mutant that I have. The zombie trait, and even the M1 zombie fur, which is just like one of the traits that you can get with like the mutants. I love the zombie fur, so that was going to be one that I got. But hearing that they have one of the alien CryptoPunks, that was another thing I was going to say is CryptoPunk is definitely a grail. But I might just get a V1 CryptoPunk because it's a lot cheaper than the regular CryptoPunk. V1 CryptoPunks are like 4.5 ETH right now, so still not super cheap, but comparatively, they're not bad.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I think that brings us probably to the end, unless we have. Oh, do you want to do predictions, Elena? Do you have any predictions for the space?
It's a good week, no? Prediction. We didn't talk about it, but of course a lot happened with Twitter Elon drama. Of course. I'll suggest 2 podcasts. Kara's new podcast, On with Kara Swisher, had an episode yesterday just focused on Elon and Kara's relationship and that's been happening recently. But I still, I've been going back and forth about will this product be better or not? Because we're obviously caring about Twitter. We're on Twitter Spaces right now, and I've listened to the whole hour of Elon and all these podcasts talking about him, checked out all his tweets, etc. And I still believe he has the potential to make a really good product, a really better product, and but hopefully his ego doesn't come before that. And I still believe it's going to be a good product, but it's going to be a bumpier road.
Yeah, the bumpy road, I think, has already started. I mean, we're seeing reports today of him firing people who like make fun of him or like aren't his fans. Like, I don't even know, even if there's a private company, like there's probably like labor laws. I don't even know if that's legal. But yeah, there's reports of people being fired because they were like quote unquote mean to him or they like made fun of him. So if you're a billionaire and you can just get out of your own way ego wise and actually like build and do something great for humanity, I would love to see that. That would be my favorite. My let's see. My prediction is that we will get an update on Doodles 2 after Thanksgiving. And that is based on a screenshot that I saw circulating from the Doodles Discord where the CEO says that they will have an update soon. So I don't think it really makes sense to have an update before Thanksgiving. A lot of like, why? But to after Thanksgiving, and then when the Doodle Putt activation happens, it's going to be around there. So maybe first week of December, which will be very exciting.
Amazing. Should I take us out?
Take us out. Let's go.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been our pleasure as always. We'll be here next week to break down all things Web3, crypto, NFTs, metaverse, and whatever happens in this crazy space. And to remind you all, nothing you say here is financial advice, but our own personal experiences of Adam and I. And we'll be here next week. And don't forget to subscribe to Rarible's newsletter, right-click save, and my own newsletter, NF Times, pinned at mine and Rarible's own profiles. So we'll see you next week. Thanks for
Awesome.
coming on.
Thank you, Elena. Thanks, everybody. We will see you next week. Take care. Bye.